The charges started immediately when you labeled me unfit. Maxine Dan Bongino commanded the center of the CNN studio in Los Angeles at 9 p.m. Eastern Prime Time. 300 individuals filled a room meant for crowd engagement with half in red and half in blue, all prepared for a fight. Every angle had cameras, and the lights burned hot, while Jake Tapper sat between them, attempting to broadcast an authority he lacked. Not on this evening did Bongino's voice carry that specific weight, that police officer weight, not shouting or hostile, but simply final. That is the tone which implies we both realize how this concludes. Unfit is exactly what you stated regarding me, a former NYPD officer and former Secret Service agent who actually guarded presidents and a man who worked for his pay. You dubbed me unfit, while Maxine Waters sat opposite him, secure in a confidence constructed over 30 years within Congress. It was built upon decades of never encountering actual repercussions and a career of escaping trouble, whatever it happened to be. She possessed that specific gaze and that look which declared, "I have handled worse than you." She had not met anyone like him, and Bongino leaned in just a bit. If you wish to discuss credentials, then let us discuss credentials. Let us discuss 30 years inside Congress while your district gets worse. Let us discuss utilizing your station to rescue your husband's bank. Let us discuss paying your daughter over $1 million using campaign funds. Let us discuss residing in a $6 million Beverly Hills estate while speaking for South Central LA. He hesitated to let it sit while 300 people held their breath. Let us discuss that specific point, while Waters adjusted just slightly, but Bongino noticed it. Years of analyzing suspects, analyzing criminals, and analyzing people ready to lie meant he noticed everything. Folks viewing at home, he pivoted to the lens for a direct address. What you are preparing to witness is elementary, consisting of 5 scandals, 5 instances of rot, and 5 causes why this woman should have faced charges years ago instead of serving in Congress. Bank bailouts, daughter payoffs, Beverly Hills estates inciting riots, and 30 years of it. Back to Waters. And she is going to account for all of it right here, right now, on film with no exit. The studio atmosphere changed, becoming electric and hazardous. This was not a discussion. This was an inquiry, and everybody realized it. Bongino grinned, not kindly or warmly, but the grin a police officer offers when he knows he possesses the proof. When he realizes the suspect is culpable, and when he realizes this is merely a procedure before the restraints. If you have been anticipating someone to finally ask Maxine Waters the inquiries, nobody else will then share this. Hit that button, because what I am about to demonstrate to you is not theory, nor is it opinion, it is recorded truth. It is evidence of the variety that dispatches individuals to jail. He lifted a binder, a thick binder of papers, evidence, and confirmation. Let us proceed, because Bongino did not squander time with no build-up, just an assault. That is how inquiries function. So let me clarify something for you, Congresswoman. He stressed the rank, making it appear nearly offensive. 2008 financial collapse. You recall banks collapsing everywhere. Small banks, local banks, and banks that had assisted neighborhoods for ages. All dying and all desperate, he began walking with that energy, that radio broadcaster energy rising. And Congress is determining who survives and who perishes, who receives taxpayer funds, who gets rescued, and who gets forsaken. Very crucial choices involving life and death for thousands of companies and millions of positions. Waters attempted to interject, raising her hand with that trademark gesture. I am not finished, not hostile, just conclusive. You serve on the Financial Services Board, the board finalizing these choices. You possess authority, You possess access, and you possess sway. He halted walking and turned to confront her straight on. And you realize what else you possess: a husband named Sidney Williams, who serves on the director board of One United Bank. A bank that is failing, a bank that is frantic, and a bank that requires a rescue. What is the probability, right? What are the likelihoods? The irony dripped dense and weighty. So let me ask you something basic. Yes or no, did you organize a gathering between Treasury officers and One United Bank? Waters' hand moved to her necklace. An involuntary motion. Bongino saw it and marked it. That signal she did not realize she possessed. I pursued standard protocols is not a yes or no. He interrupted her, not shouting, not hostile, just police. Pure police. Did you organize the gathering, yes or no? The scenario demanded a yes or no. The studio fell quiet. Total quiet. 300 people, all the cameras, all the staff. Everyone halted, waiting, watching. Waters' voice emerged tinier than previously, saying I enabled contact between. You arranged it, not a query, but a declaration. You utilized your station, you utilized your authority, and you got your husband's collapsing bank, a gathering with Treasury officers. And 1 week afterward, $12 million of taxpayer cash, your cash. He gestured at the spectators, their cash going to rescue her husband's bank. He moved toward the crowd and stood amidst them as one of them. How many of you know a person who lost a company in 2008? Lift your hands. Hands began rising, 1, 5, 10, 20, 30, dispersed throughout the crowd. People who had survived the crash, who had lost companies, lost funds, lost everything. Bongino motioned at them. They did not receive meetings. They did not receive bailouts. They did not have Maxine Waters interfering for them. They simply lost everything. Back to Waters, while your husband's bank was rescued with their funds. That is not complex, Maxine. That is corruption. That is termed corruption, where I originate from. She attempted again, voice guarding, now claiming other banks also obtained TARP money. Other banks were not wedded to members of Congress. His voice climbed, rising. That is the distinction, that is the felony, utilizing your station to aid your family. Waters attempted her trademark gesture again. Hand raised, voice climbing, saying, I am taking back my time. This is not your time to take back. Bongino was not retreating louder now, overwhelming. The citizens of California have been anticipating answers for 15 years. It is my moment now, and you are going to respond. The studio exploded, not cheering, not jeering, just sound. The noise of 300 people comprehending they were viewing something actual, something unpolished, something that never occurs on television these days. Jake Tapper attempted to interrupt, saying, if we could sustain, but nobody was hearing. Bongino revealed papers and held them up. Ethics Board report. Your own ethics board discovered that you interfered, discovered that your husband's bank profited, discovered problems, documented problems. But you know what occurred? Nothing, absolutely nothing. He moved back to center stage and stood in front of Waters. Let me explain this for everybody watching small banks across California, across America. Banks that aided neighborhoods, that hired people, that supported families, they failed. They got zero. They perished. Pause. But one bank, one unique bank, the bank where Maxine Waters' husband sat on the director board. That bank received $12 million, and the individual who organized it, the individual who made it occur, the individual who utilized her congressional authority to rescue her family's asset. He gestured at her, her Maxine Waters. The Beverly Hills Marxist residing in splendor, while sermonizing about poverty, utilizing your cash to rescue her family's riches. Waters could not sustain eye contact and looked down at her notes, at her hands. Anywhere except at Bongino, anywhere except at the cameras, anywhere except at the 300 people watching her twist. Bongino noticed it, the fracture, the split, the instant when the shield begins failing. In my duration in the Secret Service, we examined financial felonies, corruption graft, utilizing your station for private profit. I have witnessed it. I have detained people for it. I realize what it resembles. He leaned in, getting nearer that interrogation room proximity. And this right here is it. This is corruption documented, verified on the ledger. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Arrest her." Others entered the chant, starting quiet. At first, then rising, "Arrest her, arrest her." Waters' hands were trembling, now noticeably trembling, shaking. She attempted to lift them to halt the noise, to regain command, but command was vanished. Authority was vanished. Power was vanished. Just a politician facing charges she could not dodge, evidence she could not refute. Truth she could not twist. Bongino allowed it to rise, let the audience voice what he had proven, let their fury confirm his charges, then lifted one hand. Silence, instant, total. That is round one. Your tax funds, her family's bank, small banks perished. Hers endured because she made it occur. If you are mad about that, if you believe Congress should not use your cash to bail out their families, share this remark. Let everyone know, because we are merely getting started. He lifted another binder, thicker than the first. Now, let us discuss her daughter. Let us discuss the $1 million from election funds, your contributions going to her daughter for years. Waters' face turned white. The first binder was terrible. This one was worse, and she realized it. Bongino energy changed, more irony, now that radio broadcaster edge coming through. Okay, so we have proven corruption number one, bank rescue family profit, utilizing taxpayer cash. That is proven, that is fact. But wait, he paused. That signature pause, rising strain, there is more. Oh, there is so much more. He walked toward Waters. She adjusted in her chair, uneasy, searching for exits that did not exist. Let me inform you about Karen Waters' Maxine daughter. I do not know her, never met her, but I know her bank account, and her bank account is very robust. You know why? Another pause, because Mommy has been paying her from election funds. Your election contributions, money from people who believed it was going to real campaigns, to battling for their district, to representing their needs. Instead, going to her daughter, he ceased walking and faced the lens. Over $1 million, that is not a typo, not an error, over $1 million. Back to water. Now I am merely a former officer, just a guy who used to guard presidents, just someone who actually worked for his pay. But where I originate from, when you take contributions intended for campaigns and give them to your family, that is termed embezzlement, that is termed theft, that is termed fraud. Waters attempted to stage a defense, voice trembling. These are valid campaign costs, valid. Bongino chuckled. Actually, chuckled, $1 million to your daughter, that is valid. He withdrew papers, FEC documents, public record, indisputable. Karen Waters operates something called slate mailers. You know what those are, flyers, lists of supported candidates. They go out during elections, cost perhaps 50 grand to create, maybe. He held up the papers. Maxine Waters has paid her daughter over $1 million for slate mailers, over years, constantly, always family, always daughter. Turned to crowd. Let me ask you something. How many of you have contributed to political drives? Lift your hands. Many hands went up, dispersed throughout the studio. Normal people, tiny donors, believers. You believed that money went to commercials, right? To employees, to actually campaigning, to battling for your interests. He let them nod, let them concur. Then, what if I informed you it went to the candidate's daughter instead? What if I informed you it went to family profit? How would you feel? The whispering began, angry whispering, rising, spreading. Bongino pivoted back to Waters, with all proper respect, Maxine. The words soaking with irony, and I mean zero respect. Zero. Your daughter has become wealthy off your political job, over $1 million from tiny donors. From people who could not afford it, from families battling to pay rent. Their money went to your family. Waters attempted again. My daughter offers worthy services. Services, he interrupted her. Let me clarify this. Other campaigns pay perhaps $50,000 for slate mailers. Maybe you have paid over $1 million to your daughter, that is 20 times more for the identical service. How does that function? Silence. Waters could not reply. I will tell you how it functions. It is family profit. It is utilizing your station to make your family rich. It is taking money from people who believed in you and giving it to people who share your DNA. That is how it functions. He walked back to the crowd and stood amidst them again. These people trusted you. They sent money they did not possess. $20, $50, $100, thinking it would assist their community, assist their district, assist their causes. He spun back to Waters, fast, hostile instead. It helped Karen Waters purchase a house, purchase a car, live a cozy life on their money. On contributions from people who struggle, who work multiple jobs, who clip coupons, who worry about bills. His voice rose, climbed. While your daughter got wealthy, that is what their contributions bought. Not representation, not support, not change, just your daughter's bank account. The audience exploded, jeering, shouting, "Give it back, refund, fraud." Waters' hands went to her face, covering, concealing that guarding motion, that guilty motion. Bongino saw it, knew what it meant. In the Secret Service, we examined financial felonies, money laundering, embezzlement, fraud. I have witnessed it all. And you know what this is? He pointed at her, direct charging. This is it. This is fraud. Taking money under false claims, utilizing it for private profit. Family profit. That is textbook fraud. Waters attempted to speak. Mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words arrived, just that guarding stance. Those hands covering her face, that realization that there is no exit. Jake Tapper attempted to offer her an opening. Congresswoman, would you like to reply? She cannot reply. Bongino was not letting her off. There is no reply. The figures are public record FEC documents. Anyone can check them up. Over $1 million to her daughter. It is recorded. He produced more papers, held them up year by year, payment by payment. Karen Waters. Karen Waters. Karen Waters, always the daughter, always family, always profit. Turn to lens, to America, to 10 million people watching. This is what swamp beasts do. This is what Beverly Hills Marxists do. They preach about aiding people, about battling for communities, about representing the poor, and then they use your money to make their families wealthy. Back to Waters, she was contracting now, getting tinier, the hostile matriarch who ruled Congress for decades gone. Just a politician exposed, caught guilty. With all proper respect, Bongino voice dripped poison. Your daughter is a millionaire, from campaign funds, from tiny donors, from people who believed in you, while South Central struggles, while Compton has crime, while Watts has poverty. Your daughter, she is fine, she is wealthy, she is cozy. He paused, let it sink in on their money. The studio was on its feet now, half standing, half shouting, all involved. This was not entertainment anymore. This was revelation, real revelation. Truth, being dragged into light. It had evaded for years. Waters could not look up, could not face it. Just sat there, hands over face, shoulders, bent, guarding guilty caught. That is two scandals, folks. Bank rescue, daughter payoffs, both utilizing your money, both enriching her family. If you are mad, if you contributed to campaigns and want to know where your money went, share this tag. People, let them see what corruption looks like up close. He lifted another binder even thicker, because now we discuss where she resides. And trust me, you are going to love this. The Beverly Hills Marxist in her $6 million mansion while representing South Central. This is my favorite. Waters looked up, dread in her eyes. Real dread, because she knew. She knew what was arriving, and she knew there was no defense. Bongino tone altered, more ridicule, now that edge of disbelief mixed with revulsion. Let me clarify something to you about Maxine Waters' district. He withdrew a map, District 43, California, put it on the screen. South Central, Los Angeles, Watts. Compton, some of the poorest communities in California. High poverty, high crime. Struggling families. That is her district. That is who she represents. That is who voted for her for 30 years. He let that sink in. You know where Maxine resides. Pause, rising Beverly Hills. Another pause, heavier. Not near Beverly Hills, not Beverly Hills, neighboring. Not in a neighborhood that is like Beverly Hills, Beverly Hills. $6 million estate. $6 million? He walked toward Waters. Let me ask you something, Congresswoman. When is the last time you spent a night in South Central, in your district, in the community you represent? Waters attempted to reply. I do not see how that is when not hostile, just demanding, simple query. When is the last time you slept in your district amidst the people you represent? Silence. She could not reply. Did not reply. I will reply for you, never, or close enough to never, that it does not matter. Because you do not live there, you live in Beverly Hills, in a mansion in luxury far away from the poverty you preach about. Far away from the crime you disregard, far away from the people you claim to represent. He turned to the audience, to the cameras. Let me clarify this. When I was NYPD, I resided in Brooklyn, near the people I served. That is what officers do. That is what public servants do. They live with the people, not away from them. Back to Waters. But you represent South Central from Beverly Hills. You advocate for the poor from a mansion. You lecture about inequality while residing in the top 1%. Waters attempted deflection. Many representatives live outside their districts. Many representatives are not you. His voice climbed, that intensity rising. Many representatives do not spend 30 years preaching about poverty while amassing millions. Many representatives do not lecture about oppression from 6 million mansions. He walked among the crowd again. How many of you live in the area you work in, or grew up in, or serve? Most hands went up. Normal people do that. Normal people live near their work, near their community, near the people they serve. But Maxine, she is not normal. She is special. She is elite. She is Beverly Hills, the irony thick enough to choke on. Let me clarify something. He walked back to center stage. Her voters in South Central average income $30,000 a year. Her voters in Compton struggling with crime, with poverty, with failing schools. Her voters in Watts, some of the hardest circumstances in America, he motioned at Waters. And their congresswoman lives in a $6 million estate in Beverly Hills, where average home price is $4 million. Where she is surrounded by wealth, by luxury, by everything her voters do not have. Waters' attempted anger, raised voice that worked before I have dedicated my life to what Bongino exploded, not controlled anymore, raw. To getting wealthy and to amassing riches, to living in luxury while your district suffers, that is what you dedicated your life to. He faced the cameras. The people of California are watching. South Central is watching. Compton is watching. Watts is watching. And they want to know, why does their congresswoman live in Beverly Hills? Why does she not live near them? Why does she not live with them? Back to Waters. Quieter now, more dangerous, because you are not one of them. You never were. You utilized them. You utilized their votes. You utilized their trust. You utilized their poverty as a stage to get wealthy. And now you live in Beverly Hills while they are still in South Central, still struggling, still poor, still waiting for the help that never arrives. He produced property records, put them on screen, her estate images, luxury wealth. Then images of South Central poverty, struggle, crime side by side, the contrast devastating. $6 million for her, $30,000 a year for them. That is representation. That is advocacy. That is fighting for the people. The audience was getting louder, angrier. This was not abstract anymore. This was visual. This was proof, undeniable, obvious, damning. With all proper respect, Maxine, the phrase had become his weapon, his recurring jab. You are worth millions, millions, while your district struggles, while your constituents live in poverty, while families in South Central worry about making rent. You are in Beverly Hills, safe, secure, wealthy. Waters could not look at him, could not face the cameras, could not maintain any composure. Just sat there shrinking, getting smaller. The matriarch becoming the accused. That is termed hypocrisy. Where I originate from, that is termed fraud. That is termed using people, taking their votes, taking their trust, taking their support and giving them nothing in return, except more of the same poverty they have always had. He walked toward her one more time. You know what kills me? What really kills me? It is not that you are wealthy. Good for you. America rewards success. It is that you are wealthy while preaching against wealth. You are living in luxury while attacking luxury. You are part of the elite while claiming to fight the elite. His voice dropped, that police intensity. You are a fraud. A Beverly Hills Marxist, living the life you claim to oppose, benefiting from the system you claim to fight, getting wealthy off the people you claim to help. The studio erupted standing ovation, not for Bongino, for truth, for revelation, for finally seeing what everyone suspected, but nobody proved. Waters put her head down, could not watch, could not listen, just there, present, but broken. The aggressive politician who started this confrontation, gone, destroyed, exposed. That is 3 scandals, bank rescue, daughter payoffs, Beverly Hills estate, all while representing South Central, all while claiming to fight for the poor, all while getting wealthy off their trust. He opened another binder, this one darker, more serious. But now we discuss violence, about incitement, about her calling for people to harass government officials, about real people getting threatened, getting attacked, getting hurt because of her words. His voice changed, got harder. That Secret Service edge, this one, is personal because I spent my career guarding people, and she spent her career putting people in danger. Waters looked up, eyes wide, terrified, because this one was on video. Her words, her face, her voice, undeniable. Bongino, entire demeanor shifted. This was not irony anymore. This was not mockery. This was police. Real police. Angry police. Protective police. Let me clarify something to you. His voice quieter, colder, more dangerous than any shouting. In the Secret Service, our job was simple. Protect the president. Protect government officials. Protect them from threats. From harassment, from violence. That was our mission. That was our purpose. He walked slowly toward Waters. And you called for the exact opposite. You called for harassment, for confrontation, for violence. He stopped, pulled out a tablet. Video queued up. June 2018, Los Angeles. You are at a rally, and you say this. He played it, her voice, her face, her words on screen, undeniable. If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them. He paused. The video. Let those words hang there. Create a crowd. Push back on them. He repeated it slowly. Those are your words. Maxine, not taken out of context, not edited, your words on video, telling people to harass government officials. He walked among the crowd. Let me clarify this for everybody. Create a crowd that is mob action. Push back. That is physical confrontation. She is not talking about peaceful protest. She is talking about harassment, about intimidation, about making people afraid. Back to Waters. You continued, you said, tell them they are not welcome anymore. Anywhere, anywhere. Not in public spaces, not in restaurants, not in stores, anywhere. His voice rose, building, and you know what happened? People listened. They created crowds. They pushed back. They harassed officials. They threatened families. They scared children. He pulled out news reports, put them on screen. Secretary of Homeland Security, eating dinner with her family mob, shows up, starts chanting, starts threatening. She has to leave her family terrified because of your words. More reports. White House press secretary at a restaurant, kicked out owner, cites your speech, your call to action, your incitement. More senator at airport, confronted, harassed, surrounded, because you told people to create crowds. His voice kept building, getting louder, more intense. Cabinet members, senators, officials, all harassed, all threatened, all because you told people to do it. Waters attempted to defend. I was talking about peaceful. Bongino exploded, you said. Push back, you said. Not welcome anywhere. Those are not peaceful words. Those are threatening words. He got closer, right in front of her. Let me clarify something. In my time guarding presidents, we dealt with threats every single day. Real threats from people who believed violence was justified. And you know what gives them permission? What gives them justification? He pointed at her. People like you with power, with platforms, telling them it is okay, telling them to create crowds, telling them to push back. You give them permission. Waters attempted again, voice barely working. I was exercising my First Amendment. The First Amendment does not protect incitement. His voice filled the studio. I am a police officer. I know the law, and you crossed the line. He turned to the crowd. How many of you have ever been threatened for your political beliefs? Harassed, confronted, several hands went up, dispersed. real people, real experiences. It is scary, right? It is intimidating. It makes you afraid, afraid to speak, afraid to participate, afraid to engage. He let them nod, let them remember, and people like Maxine Waters. They create that fear. They cause that harassment with their words, with their incitement. He walked back to center in the Secret Service. We had a saying, words have consequences. What you say matters, how you say it matters, who hears it matters. He faced Waters directly. You told people to harass officials, and they did. You told them to create crowds, and they did. You told them to push back, and they did. Those are consequences, direct consequences, cause and effect. His voice dropped that quiet intensity. And when people got hurt, when families got scared, when children cried because mobs were threatening their parents, you did not apologize. You did not take it back. You doubled down. He played more video. Oh, her defending the comments, refusing to apologize, insisting she meant it. See that is not a mistake. That is not an error. That is intentional. That is calculated. That is knowing you incited harassment and being proud of it. The audience was silent. Now, different silence, heavy silence. This was not about money anymore. This was about safety, about security, about people being hurt, because someone with power told others to hurt them. Bongino's voice stayed quiet. More impact that way, with all proper respect, and, I mean, absolutely none. You put people in danger. Real people, government officials doing their jobs, their families, their children. You put them all in danger because you were angry about politics. Waters was crying now, openly, crying not. Remorse. Tears caught. Tears, guilty tears. The tears of someone who knows they crossed a line and got caught. Let me explain what that makes you. He moved closer. In my time as a police officer, we arrested people who incited violence, who called for harassment, who put others in danger. We did not give them a pass because they were angry. We did not excuse it because they had political disagreements. We arrested them. He pointed at her. You should have been arrested. What you did is a crime incitement. It is on the books, it is prosecutable, but you are in Congress, so you got away with it. His voice rose again. But the people do not forget. The people, remember restaurant workers, remember being put in danger. Officials remember being harassed. Families remember being threatened. All because you told people to do it. The audience exploded. Not cheering, not jeering, just anger, raw anger. The sound of people realizing that someone with power had abused it, had put regular people in danger, had incited violence and faced no consequences. Waters could not look up, could not face it. Hands over face, crying, broken, the aggressive matriarch completely gone. Just scared politician knowing she is exposed. That is 4 scandals, folks. Bank rescue, daughter payoffs. Beverly Hills estate. Inciting violence. All documented, all proven, all on the record. If you have ever been threatened for your politics, if you know anyone who has been harassed, share this. Let people see what happens when powerful people call for violence. He lifted the final binder, the thickest one. But we are not done. Because now we discuss 30 years. 3 decades of Maxine Waters. 3 decades of corruption. 3 decades of getting wealthy while her district got poorer. This is the summary. This is the total picture. This is the knockout. Waters looked up, eyes red, face wet, terrified. Because she knew 30 years of everything, all coming out all at once, with no escape. Bongino looked tired, Not actually tired, performatively tired. That exhaustion of seeing too much corruption, too much fraud, too much getting away with it. 30 years, he said it quietly. Let it hang there. Maxine Waters has been in Congress for 30 years since 1991. George H.W. Bush was president. The Soviet Union still existed. The Internet was brand new. 30 years ago, he walked slowly, deliberately. You know what South Central looked like 30 years ago? Poor, high-crime, struggling schools, failing infrastructure problems everywhere. Pause. You know what South Central looks like now, 30 years later, after 3 decades of Maxine Waters representing them. Final pause. Devastating pause. Exactly the same. Actually, worse poverty, higher crime, higher schools, still failing infrastructure, still crumbling every metric worse, or the same, but never better. He faced Waters. But you know what? Did get better. Your bank account, your house, your daughter's bank account. Those got better. South Central still waiting. She could not respond, just sat there crying, broken. Finished? Let me explain this. He pulled out statistics, put them on screen 30 years ago. South Central had these poverty rates. These crime rates, these unemployment rates numbers appeared today. Same rates, higher rates, worse rates, more numbers. 30 years ago, Maxine Waters was worth maybe $1 million, comfortable today, multiple millions, estate, daughter, enriched, family, wealthy. The contrast, stark, damning, obvious. In my time guarding presidents, I saw a lot of politicians, good ones, bad ones, corrupt ones, but this. He gestured at the screens at the data. This is special. This is someone who got elected to help people and instead helped herself. For 3 decades, he walked toward Waters. You have had 30 years to make a difference, 30 years to help, 30 years to serve. And what do your constituents have to show for it? He waited. Let her try to answer. She could not, nothing. They have nothing. Same poverty, same crime, same struggling, same waiting for help that never comes 30 years, zero progress for them. His voice rose. But for you, 30 years of success, of wealth, accumulation of family enrichment, of living better while they live the same or worse. He turned to cameras. The people of California are watching. South Central is watching. And they want answers after 30 years of Maxine Waters. What has changed? What has improved? What has gotten better? Back to Waters, nothing. The answer is nothing. Your district has waited 30 years, and gotten nothing while you have gotten everything. He pulled out more documents, more evidence. Bank scandal, daughter payments, Beverly Hills estate, ethics, investigations, financial irregularities, incitement. All of it over 30 years. It is not one mistake. It is not one bad decision. It is a pattern. His voice got harder, that prosecutor tone. 30 years of using public office for private gain. That is the pattern, that is the career, that is the legacy he walked to center stage. Stood under the lights. With all proper respect, Maxine, and we have established, I mean none, you have had an entire career to help people, to serve, to make a difference. And instead you made yourself wealthy, made your family comfortable, made your daughter a millionaire. He pointed at her while South Central struggled, while Compton suffered, while Watts waited. They got nothing. You got everything. That is not public service. That is theft. That is corruption. That is using people for private gain. The studio was on its feet, all of them. 300 people standing, some applauding, some silent, all witnessing the destruction of someone who had held power for 3 decades. and abused it every single day. Waters had her head down completely, down, shoulders shaking, crying. Not trying to defend anymore, not trying to spin, just broken, destroyed, exposed, after 30 years of getting away with it. That is it, folks. 5 scandals, 5 rounds, bank rescue using your money, daughter payments from your contributions, Beverly Hills estate, while representing poverty, inciting violence that hurt real people. 30 years of corruption getting wealthy while her district suffered, he faced the main lens direct address to America. This is what the swamp looks like. This is what corruption looks like. This is what happens when someone gets power and never faces consequences for 30 years until now, until tonight. Pause. Let it breathe. Share this everywhere. Subscribe. Comment. Tell everyone you know. Because corruption does not expose itself. Someone has to do it. Someone has to ask the questions. Someone has to demand answers. And tonight, someone did. The audience exploded, standing ovation, thunder, applause. Not for Bongino, for truth, for revelation, for accountability, finally arriving after 3 decades. Waters could not move, could not speak, could not function. Just sat there, destroyed, the aggressive matriarch who dominated Congress for 30 years gone. Just broken politician facing consequences she had avoided for an entire career. Jake Tapper attempted to wrap up. We should thank our, but nobody was listening. The show was over, the revelation complete, the damage done. Waters broken, Bongino victorious, America watching, and nobody would forget what they had just seen. The Beverly Hills Marxist finally exposed after 30 years on live television in front of 10 million people with no escape, no spin, no way out. Justice. Real justice. The kind that happens when someone finally asks the right questions, when evidence finally gets shown. When truth finally matters more than power. The video went viral before the credits finished rolling, 20 million views in the first hour. 50 million by morning, 100 million by end of week. Maxine exposed trending worldwide. Beverly Hills Marxist becoming permanent nickname. Bongino destroys Waters, capturing every clip, every exchange, every moment of destruction. Conservative media exploded. Fox News ran the confrontation on loop. Hannity devoted entire show to analysis. Tucker Carlson called it the most devastating political takedown in television history. Laura Ingraham played the bank section 5 times. The ratings were massive. Record-breaking historic liberal media attempted to defend her, but could not. The evidence was too clear, the corruption too obvious. CNN ran segments about controversial moments, but their own studio had hosted the destruction. MSNBC attempted focusing on Bongino tone instead of Waters. Crimes did not work by evening. Even they had moved on, left her to drown alone. Waters' office stopped answering phones immediately. Voicemail full within an hour, system crashed by midnight. Overwhelmed by constituents demanding answers, demanding resignation, demanding she finally face consequences, her staff quit mass exodus. Nobody wanted the association chief of staff gone by morning. Press secretary. By afternoon, legislative director. By evening, within 48 hours. 3 people left running her entire operation. Everyone else fled. Resumes circulating, looking for any work that was not connected to Maxine Waters. The squad silent. Not one tweet of support. Not one statement of solidarity. Not one public appearance together. Omar posted something about unity without naming Waters. Tlaib went dark. AOC retweeted environmental news. Presley deleted social media apps. The Progressive Alliance was fake. Always had been. Now everyone knew. Nancy Pelosi. Office released one sentence. The Congresswoman must address these serious allegations. Translation: you are on your own. Figure it out. Good luck. You will need it. Democratic leadership privately discussed. Options: committee, removals, censure, expulsion. Waters had been protected for decades, but protection has limits. And she had exceeded them within days. 3 different ethics complaints were filed, all citing the same evidence Bongino presented: bank rescue daughter payments, financial irregularities. The complaints: formal official public. The House Ethics Committee announced investigation. Formal investigation, no choice after that revelation. After that evidence, after 10 million people watched corruption explained in detail on live television, primary challenger announced within hours did not wait. Struck while Waters was wounded, not another progressive, a moderate, a reformer, someone from South Central, actually from the district, actually living there, actually representing the people, his slogan. South Central deserves better. His first ad clips from the debate: Waters' estate versus South Central poverty. Her daughter's payments versus constituent struggles. Her 30-year record versus 30 years of no progress. The contrast, devastating fundraising, exploded 2 million in first week. All small donors, $5, $10, 20 people who had waited 30 years for someone to challenge her, for someone to finally say what everyone knew. What everyone saw, what everyone suffered under polling, showed him leading by 15 points, within 2 weeks by 20 points by end of month end. The lead growing as more people watched the debate, as more people learned the truth, as more people realized they had been used. Campaign donors demanded refunds, thousands of them, people who had given to Waters over the years, whose money went to her daughter, who wanted it back, wanted justice, wanted accountability. Her campaign attempted damage control, issued statements, called it partisan attacks, called it racism, called it sexism. None of it worked. The evidence was public record. The proof was undeniable. The corruption was obvious. Waters' deleted social media apps could not handle the comments, the mockery, the truth, millions of posts, all brutal, all accurate, all permanent. She had not appeared publicly since the debate, 3 weeks of silence. No statements, no interviews, no town halls, just hiding in Beverly Hills. In her estate, away from the district, away from the people, away from accountability. Her approval rating collapsed 68% to 29% in weeks. The fastest political implosion in California history polling showed her losing primary by 35 points to literally anyone, to any challenger, to any option other than Maxine Waters' South Central community leaders called for resignation. Formal statement, public brutal. She used our poverty to get rich. She used our votes to get power. She used our trust to enrich her family. For 30 years, we demand she resign. We demand someone who actually represents us, who actually lives with us, who actually cares about us. The statement echoed, shared, retweeted, posted everywhere, by everyone, the community she had represented. For 30 years turned against her, finally, completely, permanently. Beverly Hills neighbors stayed quiet. Rich people do not comment on scandals involving other rich people. Professional courtesy, but they knew, everyone knew, the mansion on the hill belonged to a criminal, to someone who had stolen from the poor. To live among the rich, to the Beverly Hills Marxist Bongino, became conservative hero. His radio show ratings doubled, tripled, highest ever advertisers paying premium rates. Networks offering shows, book deals appearing, speaking invitations flooding in. But he kept message simple. consistent. I am just a former officer who asked questions. Questions everyone should have asked. 30 years ago, questions journalists should have asked, questions but ethics committees should have asked. I just asked. She could not answer. That is it. The phrase caught on. Just ask the questions became conservative. Rallying cry applied to every politician, every scandal, every cover-up. Simple questions, direct questions, questions that demand answers. Trump called Bongino personally. Beautiful job. Beautiful. That is how you do it. You destroyed her completely. Plans discussed potential roles. Future opportunities, the door opening wider. Waters looked for exit strategy, post-Congress career options. Limited, nobody wanted her. Think tanks said no, universities said no, companies said no, even progressive organizations passed, the brand too damaged, the corruption too obvious, the exposure too complete. Book publishers would not return calls, speaking agents stopped answering, Netflix deal never materialized. She was alone, completely alone. Everything fouled she had built. Over 30 years destroyed in 2 hours by a former officer asking simple questions, her Wikipedia page, updated within hours, no longer senior member of Congress, no longer influential progressive, no longer civil rights icon, just former U.S. representative, subject of ethics investigations, lost primary following televised debate, known for controversial record and corruption allegations that was her legacy. Former controversial investigations, nothing else would be remembered, the 30 years forgotten. The corruption remembered, the exposure, permanent political obituaries, written while she still held office. The fall of Maxine Waters became common headline. Articles analyzing what went wrong, where she failed, how she lost. But they all missed the point. She did not lose. She was exposed for what she had always been. Corrupt self-serving. Using people for personal gain for 30 years until someone finally asked questions, until someone finally demanded answers, until someone finally exposed the truth. Bongino was that someone, the Brooklyn officer who became Secret Service agent, who became radio host, who became the person who destroyed the Beverly Hills Marxist. Small donors who had been refunded told their stories, dozens of them, hundreds people who had given to Waters over the years, who had believed in her, who trusted her, who learned their money went to her daughter, who got checks back, who got justice finally. One elderly woman, never named publicly, just a donor from Compton, spoke about giving $20 a month for 5 years, $1,200 total. Thinking it helped her community learning. It helped Karen Waters buy a car, getting refund check, crying not from joy, from betrayal, from 30 years of being used. Her story represented thousands, everyone who had trusted Waters, everyone who had believed, everyone who learned the truth, everyone who got betrayed. South Central community organized without her. Other representatives helped. Real aid arrived. Real programs started. Real progress began. The community remembered who actually helped, versus who just took, remembered who showed up, versus who showed off, remembered 30 years of nothing versus 3 weeks of something. Beverly Hills said nothing. Rich neighborhoods do not comment on scandals, but property values near her mansion dropped slightly. Reputation matters even in wealth. Nobody wants to live next to exposed corruption. Nobody wants their neighborhood associated with the Beverly Hills Marxist conservative movement. Used Waters as symbol of everything wrong, of 30 years of corruption, of politicians getting wealthy while constituents suffer, of using poverty as platform for personal wealth. She became the example, the warning, the proof of everything they had always said. Bongino used victory as launching point. Bigger shows, bigger platforms, bigger audience. The guy who destroyed Maxine Waters. The officer who caught the criminal. The investigator who exposed corruption. That was his brand, now that was his power, but he stayed consistent. I just asked questions, simple questions, direct questions. Questions based on evidence, based on public records, based on facts. She could not answer them. That is not my fault. That is hers. And he was right. The questions were simple. The evidence was public. The corruption was obvious for 30 years. Until someone asked, until someone demanded answers, until someone exposed it all. Waters learned what happens when accountability finally arrives, when protection finally fails, when power finally ends. She learned that 30 years of getting away with it does not mean you get away with it forever. Eventually, someone asks questions. Eventually, evidence gets shown. Eventually, truth matters. The Beverly Hills Marxist learned it the hard way. On live television, in front of 10 million people, with no escape, no spin, no way out, just an officer asking questions, just evidence speaking truth. Justice finally arriving after 3 decades. That is what happened when Brooklyn met Beverly Hills, when an officer met a criminal, when someone finally asked the questions. Everyone should have asked 30 years ago. Waters got exposed, destroyed, finished. And everyone watched. Everyone knew, everyone remembered justice does not always arrive. But when it does, when someone finally asks the right questions, when evidence finally matters, more than power, it is devastating, complete, permanent. The Beverly Hills Marxist learned that. The hard way. The only way that matters with the whole world watching, and nobody forgot folks if watching Dan Bongino destroy Maxine Waters with simple questions. Gave you even a fraction of the satisfaction it gave those small donors who got refunds. Hit that like button right now, share this, send it to everyone. Because this is what accountability looks like when someone finally demands it. Let people see what happens when a former officer asks the questions journalists should have asked. 30 years ago, when evidence matters more than power, when corruption finally faces consequences, comment below, should Waters face prosecution? Should other politicians be investigated the same way? Who should be exposed next? Because America is watching, South Central is watching. And we are not forgetting subscribe, because there are plenty more where she came from. Bernie AOC, the squad, all hiding similar contradictions, all living similar lies, all waiting for someone to ask simple questions. They cannot answer. This is just the beginning. Dan Bongino showed how it is done. Ask questions, demand answers, show evidence, let corruption expose itself. That is what we deliver. Every time, no exceptions, no excuses. Just questions, just evidence, just truth. See you in the next one. And trust me, it is going to be even better because justice does not sleep. Truth does not stop, and neither do we.